Regardless of whether cemeteries creep you out like it did when I was a kid, or they're a fabulous place to run, cemeteries provide a lot of information for genealogy researchers. And today I'm going to share with you 6 things that you want to do when you are doing research for your ancestors by digging up stones. Okay, not really. You're not going to actually dig up the stones. Now, regardless of whether a cemetery is open to the public or is private, there's a lot of information that is waiting for you to discover. I want you to take your time. I do want you to use online sources that I'm going to talk about later, but I also want you to do a lot of groundwork by contacting offices and then taking an in-person visit if you need to. After visiting a cemetery and viewing 600 images across 9 different cemeteries in one weekend, I have some tips for you. The first step is to make a list of who you want to find. So use genealogy software and run missing location reports. So you're particularly interested in missing cemetery or burial information. Maybe you have a date, but you don't have a location. Now, you also want to see if you have a death date and place. So when you run this report, you want to make sure that you have death date and place in there as well. Because if you have no death date and place and no burial date and place, then you actually need to do different research and head off to a cemetery. But if you do have a death date and place, chances are you might have some clues to cemetery research that will make you speed that process along. So you're going to focus on the ones that have a death date and death place, or maybe even a burial date with no place, and you're going to search those first, and then you come back to the other ones that are missing both death and burial place. Now, one of the things I like to do is run the report and then make a spreadsheet out of those names so that I can write notes and things all over in my spreadsheet rather than constantly going back to this report. However, you can print it out and write your notes all over it as well. 2 strategies. The next thing you want to do is you want to go reevaluate the paper trail. I know we're not in a cemetery yet, right? Yes, but you want to go back and make sure that you've captured all the possible clues in the paper trail. So what are you going to look for? First, look at home. Some of you have funeral programs, you have death notices, you have obituaries that are lying around your family. Maybe you even have notes or letters that have been transferred between individuals. You want to check your home sources first for clues that you need. Then you want to talk to family members. When I asked my dad's first cousin, Molly, hey, do you know where great-great-grandpa Paul Zemstein is buried? I'm looking for him and I can't find him. And she's like, I know why. In that particular cemetery, his stone is sunk into the ground. And so it's buried under grass. But she knows exactly where his plot is. And when we went to the cemetery, we were able to kind of dig it out and take a picture of. You never know what information they will have, but they also maybe tell you, oh, they were cremated. You're not going to find a burial location for them. So my great aunt Marge, she was cremated. So there is no location for where she was buried. So I need to put, cremated and let it be. Then what I want you to do is go out to online grave sites like Find My Past and Billion Graves. And the reason why these are helpful is because if you happen to know the cemetery where your ancestor was buried, they might have all the information you need in order to establish a record. And then your source would be Find a Grave or Billion Graves. They might even have photos for you, and sometimes you get really lucky and there's links to their children, their spouse, and their parents, and you can pick up extra details about their burial information and reduce your research list for burial information. Another place you want to look for is obituaries. Have you tried the obituary collection from newspapers.com that's over on ancestry.com? I have a video all about it, so you want to check out the show notes or the link in the description because both will tell you how to access that additional video. If you happen to find that your ancestors' information isn't on Find a Grave or isn't on Build a Grave, or even if it is, I also want you to see if you can find out if there is a website for that particular cemetery. Now, Spring Grove Cemetery in Cincinnati, Ohio has a fantastic website. Some of the genealogical information is starting to be put behind a paywall, but the information you can find for free is very helpful for you to track your ancestors in those locations. Additionally, on a website for a cemetery, you may find a number for the sexton or the cemetery office. I know that when I contacted the St. Joseph's Catholic Cemetery in Lockbourne, Ohio, they actually had these one-page printouts, sometimes two-page printouts, that give you all the details that they have from a photo of the stone, the plot information, the purchase history, and a lot of biographical and familial relationship history on this document. Now, not every entry has the same amount of information because they're relying upon the research that they've gathered and the records that they have, but it's saved me a trip from Texas, when I lived in Texas, to Ohio by contacting the office, and then they give me everything I could possibly need. So you want to check out the cemetery websites for things that you can find online or information that they have access to that they would be happy to send to you. Sometimes there'll be a small fee associated with it, but remember, any fees are probably offset but the not need to travel. Finally, another place you want to investigate, and it's not always possible, is funeral homes. You want to contact the funeral homes that are listed as the undertakers on a death certificate, or you want to look for funerals listed in obituaries. When you do that, you're going to ask them, hey, do you have any information of the burial of Lewis Sherman Brown in 1978 in Columbus, Ohio? You're listed as the undertaker. Do you have anything? And it's entirely possible they do. Bare minimum, they may have a record that says where they buried that person. So you're going to check all of that. And now I just realized you also want to look up a death certificate. Maybe it includes where the person was buried. As you're researching, you have probably discovered a lot of answers to the questions that you have about when and where was someone buried. You've probably written notes on your printout list of missing burial facts, or it is in the spreadsheet that you created. I want you to take time and transfer that information over to your database or your online trees before you continue. Then decide, of the people that I've actually found information on, do I need to visit the cemetery? Sometimes you do. I mean, I wanted to go stand at the burial location of my great-grandfather Geisler. I wanted to go visit the cemetery where Professor Zumstein was buried. I wanted to go visit the cemetery where Professor Zumstein's parents were buried because I was in Ontario, Canada. I was in Columbus, Ohio, and I wanted to just connect with them. However, my fourth cousin, 2 times removed, uncle's wife, yeah, I don't need to stand there. I could just grab a picture and move on. So decide, are there anybody that you have found that you want to actually go visit because you want to stand where they were buried in their last resting place? That's fine, leave them on your list. Everybody else, go ahead and take them off your list and continue to the next step. Before we continue, if you would like to support the work that Andy and I do here on Family History Fanatics, there's many ways you can support us. Like this video, leave a comment, share it with your community, or become an FHF, Family History Fanatics channel member. All of that information is in the description below. Now, back to the video. Now, some of the information you found is a cemetery but no picture, and you'll want to do a road trip. And sometimes it is a situation where you still need to take a road trip to visit archives and libraries and cemetery offices in order to access stuff because they won't share it over the phone or for whatever reason. So what are you going to do? The first thing you're going to do is you're going to find the cemetery, make a map, and you're going to also find out the hours and the restrictions of those cemeteries. Not every cemetery is open to the public. Not every cemetery allows you to take pictures, which I'm not sure why, and there are some other restrictions that are taking place there. So you do want to call ahead and get all of that information. There was one time where I couldn't find a picture for my ancestors in Georgeville Cemetery in this rinky-dink little town that used to be or is near Prairie, Franklin County, Ohio. The cemetery is managed by the county, but there is this gardener that knew every inch and every stone in that place, and he was super, super handy. And it was really nice because I was able to get to specific directions. And he said, drive into the cemetery on the main path, turn left at the dead end, which is up a hill, drive past 2 large trees on your right and pull over. Get out of your car and your ancestors will be 100 steps to the northwest of that second tree. So I had to get to the tree and I have to find northwest and then go on to 100 steps. And that guy was right. He's like, and then if you get lost, call me and I'll come help you. So you do want to call ahead and get that information. You want to get section and plat maps so that you're not driving around the 3rd largest cemetery in this state of Ohio trying to find your one little ancestor. So try to get prepared. Once you get to the burial location, I want you to stop. I want you to stop. I want you to absorb the emotions of being there. I want you to look around and just feel a sense of peace and wonder. Far too often when I went to the cemeteries, I was just rush. And there were so many amazing things in the cemetery. These monuments, these alcoves, these trees and bushes that were decorating a plot. I want you to take that time to notice those details. And you never know, you may actually cross a deer or two. That was kind of fun. Now that you have embraced the moment of being there with your ancestor, I want you to just put on your detective cap. You're going to take a picture, but also notice the names and spelling variations of that stone and the stones around it. I want you to record dates and relationships, titles and associations, transcriptions, iconography, who shares the stone, and was there anything on the back of the stone. Now, if it's a flat stone in the ground, you're not going to be able to dig up that stone to find out if anything is written on the back. But if it is a vertical stone, I want you to go to the back and see what's on it. Sometimes it's just the family surname, and sometimes there's actually some pretty funny or enlightening details. So make sure you check the back of the stone as well. Now I want you to go further. That's factual information, but I want you to look, how large is that stone? What material does it look like it's made of? Is it really reflective? Is it dull? Is it weather beaten? I want you to look around. What is going on in the plot? Does it have a fence? Does it have a stone marker for the whole family plot? Are there huge obelisks that bear the family name? The reason why you want to pay attention to these clues is because they give you a hint in the economic status or the cultural importance of the markers to that family. Remember, I said I want you to think like a detective. Don't overlook these details. I also want you to think about what cemetery are they buried in. Go and learn the history of that cemetery. I have an ancestor that was buried in a Catholic cemetery. She has a single stone, but her husband died before her. Why wasn't she buried beside her husband? You need to start thinking like a detective. I'm not going to give away the solution to that, but just one little detail, she was Catholic and he wasn't. But actually, there's more to the story. And you need to think like a detective. Why is somebody not buried here when they should be? Or why is someone buried here and they shouldn't have been? Then I want you to step back a little bit further, and I want you to photograph cemetery signage, additional monuments around your gravestones, neighboring headstones, because now what you're doing is you're given a sense of perspective and establishment shots. We call this establishment shots in videography, but you're trying to just establish where this area is. Now, the neighboring stones might be so unique that if you put this in a scrapbook page or you put it in your family history, when somebody wants to go visit, you say, all right, it's right next to this stone that you can't miss. And you just go 100 yards to the right, because a tree could die, but that stone might not go away. If your ancestor doesn't have any other stones around them, There might be a story there. During World War II, there was a lot of anti-German sentiment that was taking place all around the country. And there are stories where people destroyed stones that were belonging to Germans. And there are records that said a stone was originally placed there. So you do want to take a picture of that, because now you know the story behind that field of just one surviving stone or two. As soon as you get back to your computer after being out at a cemetery, record all of your findings, update your trees, update your databases, put your pictures in, label your pictures, and really complete that research process. I hope with these tips that you can enjoy getting out into cemeteries, or not, because you do cemetery research from your home, and you can honor and respect the final resting places of your ancestors. There is a lot more information in the show notes, so please go visit my blog. The link is in the description. Even if going to cemeteries, no.